The oceanfront terrace of Seaside Springs Resort gleamed with pastel decorations and fresh lilies. White-clothed tables dotted the lawn, each topped with elaborate Easter centerpieces. Beyond the terrace, the Pacific stretched endlessly blue, waves crashing against private beaches that cost $10,000 per night to access. My sister Victoria had chosen well for our family's Easter brunch. The resort screamed wealth and status, exactly what the Bennett family valued most. "Natalie." My mother Barbara kissed me as I arrived. "You're late. We've been waiting 20 minutes. Sorry, I had to close the store last night. We were short-staffed." My sister Victoria smirked from her seat beside her hedge fund manager husband David. "Still working retail at 34? That's so quaint." I took my seat at the family table, the spot farthest from my parents naturally. My father Gregory barely looked up from his phone, where he was probably checking stock prices or reading business news. "How's the shop?" my mother asked with that particular tone that meant she wasn't really interested. "Busy," I said. "Spring inventory just came in." "That's nice, dear." She turned immediately to Victoria. "Tell everyone about David's promotion." Victoria beamed. "David just made senior vice president at Blackstone Investments. Youngest SVP in the firm's history." Applause around the table. My Uncle Thomas raised his mimosa in toast. My Aunt Jennifer cooed appropriately. Even my younger cousin Marcus looked impressed. 43 years old and already SVP, my father said proudly. "That's the kind of ambition this family is known for." The implication was clear. Victoria had married well. She'd produced 2 perfect children who attended the right private schools. She lived in a Greenwich estate and sat on charity boards and understood what it meant to be a Bennett. Me. I folded sweaters at a retail store. At least that's what they all believed. "Natalie, are you still at that clothing place?" Aunt Jennifer asked. "What's it called again?" "Style Hub," I said. Right. In the mall, isn't it?" She said mall like it was a foreign word. "Do you get a discount on clothes at least?" "I do actually." Victoria leaned forward, her diamond tennis bracelet catching the sunlight. "You know, Natalie, David's firm is hiring administrative assistants. I could put in a word. Get you out of retail into something more professional." "That's very kind," I said neutrally. "I mean, retail is fine for teenagers. But at your age you should be thinking about a real career. Building something. Making connections that matter." The server arrived with our first course. Poached eggs over asparagus with hollandaise sauce. The food was exquisite. I'd made sure of that when I'd reviewed the Easter menu 2 weeks ago. "This resort is incredible," my mother gushed. "Victoria, how did you discover it?" "David's colleague recommended it. Very exclusive. They only take 100 guests maximum. The waiting list is 2 years long, but David pulled some strings." My father nodded approvingly. "Connections. That's what matters in business. Who you know, not what you know." "Although," Victoria added, glancing at me, "knowing things helps too. Understanding markets, reading financial reports, grasping complex business concepts. Not everyone has that kind of intelligence." "Very true," my mother agreed. "Some people are just better suited for simpler work." I sipped my orange juice and said nothing. The conversation flowed around me as my family discussed David's latest investment coup, Victoria's newest charity gala, my father's plans to acquire a smaller competitor. They spoke in acronyms and insider terminology, making sure everyone knew they belonged to the world of high finance. Then my cousin Marcus made a mistake. "Aunt Natalie," he said, he was 19 and still had some kindness left in him, "what do you actually do at Style Hub? Like, are you a manager or something?" Victoria laughed. Actually laughed. "Manager? She's too stupid to understand business. He works the floor. Helps customers find the right size. Straightens shelves. That's why she works retail." My parents laughed along with her. "Now Victoria," my father said, still chuckling, "that's a bit harsh. Not everyone can handle complex business operations. Retail is honest work. Someone has to do it." "I just think it's funny," Victoria continued, emboldened. "We're sitting here discussing venture capital and market disruption, and Natalie probably doesn't understand half of what we're saying. No offense, but retail work doesn't exactly require a business degree." "Actually," I said quietly, "I have an MBA." That stopped them for a moment. From where? Victoria asked skeptically. Stanford. The table went silent. You went to Stanford? My mother's voice was sharp. When? You never mentioned. 7 years ago. I finished in 2018. My father's eyebrows drew together. We would have known if you went to Stanford Business School. That's a top 5 program. I went, I said simply. I graduated with distinction. I just didn't tell you because every time I tried to share anything about my life, you changed the subject to Victoria's accomplishments. Victoria recovered quickly. Well, even if you did go to Stanford, which seems unlikely, you're still working retail. So clearly the degree didn't do much for you. Markets are tough, my father said dismissively. Not everyone can translate education into actual success. Takes a certain kind of person. I checked my watch. 11:47 a.m. Perfect timing. I pulled out my phone and sent a quick text. Now. Terrace table near the fountain. My Aunt Jennifer was asking Victoria about her summer house in the Hamptons when a woman in a tailored Armani suit appeared beside our table. Jennifer Watts, my executive assistant for the past 5 years, carried a leather portfolio and moved with the quiet efficiency of someone who managed billion-dollar operations daily. Excuse me, she said, her voice professional and clear. I'm looking for Ms. Bennett? Victoria started to respond. The name Bennett belonged to her too after all, but Jennifer walked directly past her. She stopped at my chair. Ms. Bennett, the Morgan Stanley merger is finalized, Jennifer announced, pulling out her tablet. Your tech company is now valued at $4.2 billion. The paperwork cleared this morning. Goldman Sachs is requesting a call to discuss the acquisition of the supply chain management division. Should I schedule that for Tuesday? The table went completely silent. Victoria's fork clattered onto her plate. I'm sorry, my mother said. Who are you? Jennifer Watts, Ms. Bennett's executive assistant and chief operating officer of Bennett Technologies. She handed me the tablet, which showed a Bloomberg terminal with our company's stock price. The merger added 847 retail locations to our existing e-commerce platform. Our market cap just exceeded $4.2 billion. My father's face had gone pale. What tech company? I looked up from the tablet. Retail. I smiled. I own the chain where I work. All 847 stores across North America. Sellhub. I bought it 6 years ago when it was bankrupt. Built it back up. Integrated AI-driven inventory management, personalized shopping algorithms, seamless omnichannel retail. Last year we did $3.7 billion in revenue. Victoria's mouth opened and closed like a fish. And this resort? I continued, gesturing around us. I bought it last month. Paid cash. $89 million. The owner wanted to retire and I wanted a West Coast property for board retreats. Jennifer pulled out her phone. Actually, Ms. Bennett, the resort manager was hoping to speak with you about the summer renovation schedule. Should I tell him you're available after brunch? Tell him I'll stop by his office at 1 o'clock. Certainly. Jennifer turned to address the table. I apologize for the interruption. Congratulations on the merger, Ms. Bennett. The Wall Street Journal wants to schedule an interview for their weekend edition. I'll coordinate with your PR team. She walked away, leaving absolute silence in her wake. My Uncle Thomas found his voice first. You own a tech company? I founded it, I corrected. Bennett Technologies. We started as a software company focused on retail optimization. Inventory prediction, customer behavior analysis, dynamic pricing algorithms. I built it in my apartment with 2 engineers I met at Stanford. But you work at Style Hub, Victoria said weakly. We've seen you there. I visit my stores regularly. I like to understand the customer experience firsthand. Hard to build good retail technology if you don't understand retail. So yes, sometimes I work the floor. Sometimes I help customers. Sometimes I fold sweaters. I smiled. Last Tuesday I spent 6 hours at the Westchester location testing our new checkout system. My mother's hand went to her throat. Why didn't you tell us? I tried. Multiple times. 8 years ago when I was accepted to Stanford I called to tell you. Dad said, that's nice. And spent 20 minutes talking about Victoria's engagement. When I launched my company I invited you to the ribbon cutting. None of you came. We didn't know it was your company, my father protested. We thought you were just an employee. I sent formal invitations that said, Natalie Bennett invites you to celebrate the launch of Bennett Technologies. How much clearer could I have been? No one had an answer. David, Victoria's husband, was staring at his phone. Holy shit, he breathed. Bennett Technologies. You're the Bennett from Bennett Tech. We've been trying to get a meeting with you for 2 years. You disrupted the entire retail analytics sector. I know, I said. Your firm sent 17 meeting requests. I declined them all. Why? Because the first request came with a condescending cover letter that assumed Bennett Technologies was run by a man. Your analyst wrote Mr. Bennett throughout the entire pitch deck. David went red. Victoria was desperately scrolling through her phone. This can't be right. The company is worth billions. Billions. You can't just, you didn't. I did, I said simply. 10 years of work. 3 funding rounds. 2 successful acquisitions. An IPO at $42 per share that's now trading at $127. The Morgan Stanley deal was the final piece, giving us physical retail locations to integrate with our technology platform. My father's business mind was finally catching up. The Style Hub acquisition. That was in the Journal last week. They said an unnamed tech company bought the chain for $2.3 billion. That was me. But the article said the CEO was brilliant, visionary, under 40. He stopped. They were talking about you. Yes. My mother looked like she might cry. All this time we thought you were just, we had no idea. Because you never asked, I said, my voice even. Every family gathering for 10 years, you talked about Victoria's charity work and David's promotions and Dad's business deals. When I tried to mention my company, you smiled politely and changed the subject. Victoria tried to recover. Well, if you'd been clearer about what you were doing. I was crystal clear. You just weren't listening. There's a difference. Jennifer returned to the table. Ms. Bennett, I'm sorry to interrupt again, but the resort staff wanted me to mention that your usual suite is ready if you're planning to stay tonight. They've prepared the master villa. Thank you, Jennifer. I think I'll head up after this conversation concludes. My Aunt Jennifer, my actual aunt, not my assistant, finally spoke. You own this resort. You're staying in the master villa. You're a billionaire. I'm not personally a billionaire. My company is worth $4.2 billion, but I own 34% of it. My personal net worth is approximately $1.4 billion, depending on the stock price. Several people at nearby tables were now openly staring. A few were taking photos. Marcus, my young cousin, looked at me with something like awe. Aunt Natalie, that's incredible. Can I ask you something? Sure. How did you do it? How did you build something that big? I thought about it. I solved a real problem. Retail companies were losing billions to poor inventory management. They either overordered and had waste or underordered and lost sales. I built software that predicted demand with 94% accuracy. That alone saved stores millions. Then I added dynamic pricing, customer personalization, supply chain optimization. Each innovation made retail more efficient. But how did you get started? He pressed. Like, what was the first step? I worked retail in college. I saw the problems firsthand. I learned to code so I could build solutions. I talked to store managers, customers, suppliers. I understood the business from every angle before I tried to disrupt it. My father's voice was quiet. You learned the business from the ground up. Yes. The same way I'm learning this resort business now. I bought Seaside Springs not just as an investment, but because I want to understand luxury hospitality. My next venture is integrating technology with high-end travel experiences. Victoria's voice was small. I called you stupid. You did. I said you didn't understand business. You did. And the entire time you were running a billion-dollar company. Yes. She looked genuinely distressed. Natalie, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. If I'd known. If you'd known I was successful, you would have treated me differently, I interrupted. But the problem, Victoria, is that you treated me like I was worthless because you thought I was a retail worker. The cruelty was the same whether I was folding sweaters for minimum wage or running a tech empire. That landed hard. My mother tried to salvage something. We're so proud of you, Natalie. Truly. This is incredible. We had no idea you were so accomplished. You could have had an idea. You could have asked. Any time in the last 10 years, you could have said, Natalie, tell me about your work. But you didn't. You assumed I was a failure and treated me accordingly. My father cleared his throat. What happens now? What do you mean? I mean, clearly we've made mistakes. Serious mistakes. What are you planning to do? I looked around the table at my family who'd dismissed me for decades, who were now realizing I held more power than any of them. I'm going to have Easter brunch, I said calmly. I'm going to finish this excellent poached egg. My chef here does them perfectly. Then I'm going to walk the resort property with the manager and discuss the summer renovations. After that, I have a video call with my board of directors to discuss the merger integration timeline. And us? Victoria asked quietly. That depends on you. Jennifer reappeared. Ms. Bennett, the resort manager, just informed me that there's been a small issue with the Bennett family's reservation. My mother went pale. What issue? Well, Jennifer said, glancing at her tablet, the reservation was made under David's name, using his credit card. But the resort has a policy about payment. All charges must be settled before checkout tomorrow. David nodded. Of course. What's the total? For the 4 suites, private terrace for this brunch, champagne service, and spa appointments you booked for this afternoon, the total comes to $67,000. The number hung in the air. 67,000? My mother repeated weakly. For one night. This is an extremely exclusive property, Jennifer explained. The master villa alone is $25,000 per night. Your family booked 4 suites, which at standard rates. She paused delicately. Ms. Bennett's ownership does offer certain advantages for future bookings. But this reservation was made before the acquisition, so standard rates apply. David had gone pale. I thought it would be maybe $20,000 for everything. Shall I run the card on file? Jennifer asked. Wait, I said. Put it on my account. Natalie, you don't have to, my father started. I'm not doing it for you, I said clearly. I'm doing it because I don't want my resort staff to have an awkward billing situation. Consider it a one-time courtesy. Thank you, my mother whispered. But, I continued, this is the last time. From now on, if you want to stay at properties I own, you pay full price. If you want to shop at Style Hub, you pay retail. No family discounts. No special treatment. You wanted me to succeed in business? Well, this is what business looks like. Professional boundaries and fair compensation. Victoria looked devastated. Are you cutting us off? I'm setting boundaries. There's a difference. You're all welcome in my life, but on different terms than before. What terms? My father asked. First, respect. You don't get to mock my choices anymore. You don't get to assume I'm less than you. You don't get to treat me like the disappointing daughter who never amounted to anything. They all nodded. Second, honesty. If you want to know about my life, ask. Actually ask. And then listen to the answer. Don't just wait for your turn to talk about Victoria. Victoria flinched. Third, independence. I'm not interested in being absorbed into the family's social circle now that I'm successful. I built my life without your support and I don't need your approval now. If you want a relationship with me, it's because you actually value me as a person, not as a business connection. My mother reached across the table toward me. Natalie, I'm so sorry. We were terrible to you. We were blind and judgmental and cruel. Can you forgive us? Maybe, I said honestly. But not today. Today I'm still processing the fact that my own sister called me stupid in front of our entire family, and everyone laughed. I'm sorry, Victoria said, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry. I was jealous and insecure and I took it out on you. You're brilliant. You always were. I just couldn't see it because I was too busy trying to prove I was better. Why? I asked. Why did you need to prove that? She didn't have a good answer. Marcus spoke up again. Aunt Natalie, can I ask you something else? Sure. Would you be willing to talk to me about entrepreneurship? Like mentor me maybe? I'm studying computer science and I have some ideas but I don't know where to start. I looked at my young cousin, the only one who'd asked me an actual question about my work. I'd be happy to. Call my office next week. Jennifer will set up a time. His face lit up. Really? That would be amazing. Thank you. You're welcome. Jennifer checked her watch. Ms. Bennett, You have 15 minutes before your 1 o'clock with the resort manager. I stood up. I should go. Enjoy your Easter brunch. The chocolate dessert course is excellent. I had the pastry chef prepare a special menu for today. My father stood too. Natalie, wait. Can we talk more? Maybe later this week. Maybe, I said. But I'm going to need to see actual change. Not just apologies because you found out I'm successful. Real recognition that the way you treated me was wrong regardless of my bank account. We understand, my mother said. We'll do better. I promise. I walked away from the table, Jennifer beside me. That was intense, Jennifer murmured as we entered the resort lobby. Necessary though. How are you feeling? Honestly, relieved. I've been waiting 10 years for them to ask about my work. Now they know. The merger really was perfectly timed, Jennifer said. Morgan Stanley closing the deal right during Easter brunch? That's almost too perfect. I may have requested they schedule the final signing for this morning, I admitted. When I found out Victoria had booked us all at my own resort without knowing I owned it, I couldn't resist the opportunity. Jennifer laughed. You orchestrated the whole thing. I orchestrated the timing. The success was real. The company is real. The $4.2 billion valuation is real. I just made sure the reveal happened at the perfect moment. We walked through the lobby toward the manager's office. Guests stared. Some had clearly recognized me from the terrace scene. Others were just noticing the way staff treated me with deference. Do you think they'll actually change? Jennifer asked. I don't know. But for the first time in my life, I'm not waiting for their approval to feel successful. I know who I am. I know what I've built. Whether they respect it or not doesn't change the reality. That's healthy. It took $1 billion to get there, I said dryly. But yes, it's healthy. My phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. I'm sorry. Really truly sorry. Can we have coffee next week? Just us. I want to hear about your life. The real story. Please. I typed back. Maybe. I'll let you know. Another text from Marcus. That was the coolest thing I've ever seen. You're my hero. That one made me smile. The resort manager, Thomas, greeted us in his office. Miss Bennett, welcome back. Congratulations on the merger. I saw it on the news this morning. Very exciting. Thank you, Thomas. Now let's talk about these renovations. I want to add a tech-forward conference center. Smart rooms, AI concierge services, seamless business integration. Can we make that happen by fall? Absolutely. I have some proposals ready for your review. As we dove into blueprints and budget discussions, I felt the tension of the morning fade away. This was my real life. Building businesses, solving problems, creating value. My family's opinion of me had finally caught up to reality. Whether they could maintain that understanding remained to be seen. But either way, I was exactly who I'd always been, just now they knew it too.